Hi, Mom. What are you doing today?
Providence Place, owned by the Sisters of Providence, an ideal rental setting for retirees to continue their active, independent lifestyles. We have bright 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, a magnificent chapel with daily mass, restaurant-style dining, and wellness and entertainment programs. Call for a tour, 413-534-9700.
Mom, call me when you're not so busy.
Coming up on this edition of Reel to Reel.
I'm Nick Morganelli. I'll take you to Pope Francis Preparatory School for our first ever veneration of several relics, including those of St. Padre Pio.
Dave Martin takes us to the annual Ancient Order of Hibernians St. Patrick's Mass and Communion Breakfast. And I'll introduce you to Elizabeth Gord, this year's Holyoke St. Patrick's Parade Grand Colleen. It's all just ahead on Reel to Reel. Hello and welcome once again to Reel to Reel. We begin today with a serious topic. Not every drug-related death is the result of an overdose. Sadly, an alarming number are the result of suicide, a desperate attempt to end the suffering that comes with addiction. For one grieving Ludlow mother, the death of her 19-year-old son inspired her to take action. The Michael J. Diaz Foundation is an organization formed from tragedy that's now changing the lives of people battling addiction and those of their loved ones. Kathy Harrington has our story.
Long before this became the reality, there was this image of hope. Born in the fall of 1989, Michael J. Diaz grew up in a home filled with love and influenced by his Portuguese heritage, along with an older brother and parents with a strong work ethic.
My husband ended up having cancer. Well, Michael was only 4. He was 4. My older son was 13, something like that. I block on the dates. Yeah, I mean, your father dies. That's a big deal.
Rui Diaz had bone cancer, and it was 2 painful years in and out of hospitals until his death in 1993.
Michael was very attached to his father, so that was really tough. And yeah, I remember, and he used to ask me, can't we just buy a daddy?
Michael was busy growing up. A straight-A student, he took piano, guitar, and tennis lessons, even graduating from Portuguese school fluent in the language.
He was very busy. So you don't think a child like that has a drug problem. He started going to the gym. It started there. My son was looking amazing. He lost a lot of weight. He was looking amazing. Well, it turns out he was on steroids. Who knew?
Graduating 3rd in his class at Ludlow High School, Michael headed to Boston to Northeastern University to study engineering.
He went for a semester. Didn't quite finish the semester because the behavior just eventually went out of control.
Michael was abusing steroids and prescription pills, but his mom didn't know the extent of his addiction until he shot himself in May 2009.
I did see him the day he died. He was with me that day. And he wanted to change, and he was ready for, by then I knew that was a huge problem. I just didn't realize the extent of the problem.
Grace says Michael was shooting up massive amounts of steroids. He was also using OxyContin and oxycodone.
He looked amazing, so he never looked like a drug addict. He never looked like he was on opioids, because he was on steroids.
Calling herself naive, Grace started asking questions, coming to understand the scope of the town's overlooked drug abuse problem. After driving a young relative to a sober house in Worcester, Grace decided to take action.
When I saw that sober house, I'm like, nah, we treat our animals a million times better than we treat these guys. They were somebody's baby. That's somebody's child. And we didn't seem to care.
Grace, her family, and a group of volunteers started with the purchase and renovation of this house in Springfield.
We opened this with the intent of showing them love, showing them that we cared. And these guys were just so open to it. We've never had anyone leave any one of our houses to say that what we do for them hasn't changed their lives. Even if they go back and use, which is part of this disease, right?
The Sober Living House, named for Michael J. Diaz, opened in 2016 for those in early stages of recovery. The next year, Sean's Place, a social model transitional residence, opened its doors. It's the next step after Michael's house. And in 2020, Christian and Brian's house opened. It operates in the same manner as Michael's house, all three providing the community, structure, and support needed to keep the residents focused on their recovery.
It's a lifetime of living that moment to moment, and hopefully in time that moment to moment becomes hour to hour, and maybe then day to day.
Patrick Hamill is working on his sobriety, 3.5 years now. After years of overdoses, jail, and dozens of times in and out of detox for drugs and alcohol, the Holyoke man tried to kill himself. Hamill ended up at Michael's house.
So I went there and, man, welcome with open arms, and like the men in that house and the director at the time, Mike Broussard, like I love that man to death. Like he had more faith in me than I had faith in myself at that time, and that's where my recovery started to blossom and take off.
Hamill focuses on the future, how he can make his life more successful.
Use all the necessary components at my disposal to get better and be a better father, to be a better husband, a better son, brother, friend, employee. And it's just metastasized into something so great now.
The Michael J. Diaz Foundation also runs a support group for family and friends of people who are battling addiction, meeting on the second and fourth Tuesday of every month right here at Our Lady of Fatima Parish Center in Ludlow. Grace Diaz says the support still helps her 15 years after Michael's death. Building on their success, the Michael J. Diaz Foundation next plans to open a woman's sober home. For Real to Real, I'm Kathy Harrington.
The Michael J. Diaz Foundation is a recipient of funding from the annual Catholic Appeal. For more information, we have a link for you at iobserve.org. Now to Springfield, where students at Pope Francis Prep had a first-time experience recently, venerating relics, giving thanks to God for the saints' holy lives and praying for the grace to imitate them. Included among the relics were some from St. Padre Pio. Nick Morganelli has the story.
Over the course of 2 days, theology students spent their class time here in the theater, learning about relics, many of which have been gifted to Pope Francis Preparatory School over the years. Students venerated relics of St. John Vianney, St. Therese of Lisieux, 3 religious founders, St. Francis of Assisi, St. Dominic de Guzman, and St. Ignatius of Loyola, and 2 martyrs, St. Cecilia and St. Philemon. One of the gloves worn by St. Padre Pio was being made available to the school from the Saints Prayer Group in Chicopee. This moved theology teacher Nick Sears to rally the theology department around an idea.
And when I learned that we were going to have access to the glove for a few days, I brought it up at the meeting. And everyone was thrilled and was willing to move around their classes to venerate these and to pray. The piece of the manger of Christ is amazing because it is the oldest relic here, and a majority of the manger is in Rome, but it's pretty incredible to have a little piece from the beginning of Christ's life.
Nick presented a short teaching on St. Padre Pio, who is known for his ability of bilocation. Yes, being in 2 places at the same time. Another miracle is how he spiritually shared in Jesus' crucifixion.
Padre Pio, he had the gift of the stigmata, so he had the wounds of Christ. And so when he celebrated the Mass, those wounds would bleed. And so he had to wear these gloves. There's been miracles, many miracles that have occurred as a result of asking for the intercession of Padre Pio through these gloves.
Students venerated all the relics, and Father John Reardon, chaplain at the school, administered God's blessing through the glove.
To have these sacred objects and to dispense blessings through these sacred objects is a blessing for me as much as it is for them. It's powerful because of the fact that these are windows to eternity. Right? It's not the object itself, it's who's behind it, and it's always the Lord.
Receiving a blessing and participating in the veneration of these relics was a first-time experience for many students, and they shared some highlights.
Father John actually went to Rome and he got these medals that were actually praised by a former pope. And what we did with these is we were allowed to touch a relic with them. And I touched Padre Pio's glove, so now I have the blessing of the Padre Prio's glove on this medal, which I can carry around, and I think that's really cool.
The most powerful moment for me was when I went to touch the relic of Padre Pio. I knelt down in front of it, I touched it, and I was like, wow. It was powerful.
Samuel Iskander shared that the prayer time for him made the event even more impactful.
My highlight was actually the rosary that we did afterwards. I thought it was really powerful to take like the intentions that we brought to the saints and then bring them to St. Mary, like the Queen of all saints, and pray that together.
And we've just seen God working in their lives in a visible and a tangible way. It's such an honor and such a blessing to be a part of. And it's only as a result of them answering that knocking on their heart to open up and say yes to God.
As we are all called to do every Lenten season. Praying to God through the saints for Real to Real, I'm Nick Morganelli.
A beautiful way to honor these beloved saints. And still to come on Real to Real, it's the time of year when all in Holyoke are Irish. Dave Martin takes us to the annual Ancient Order of Hibernians St. Patrick's Mass and Communion Breakfast. And I will introduce you to this year's St. Patrick's Parade Colleen, Elizabeth Gord, an impressive product of Catholic education. It's all still to come on this edition of Real to Real.
Like Catholic TV on Facebook. Once you're there, you can join in on discussions, make friends with other Catholic TV fans, watch behind-the-scenes videos from the studio, and stay up to date with the Catholic world. All this at facebook.com/CatholicTV.
Hi, Mom. What are you doing today?
Providence Place, owned by the Sisters of Providence, an ideal rental setting for retirees to continue their active, independent lifestyles. We have bright 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, a magnificent chapel with daily mass, restaurant-style dining, and wellness and entertainment programs. Call for a tour, 413-534-9700.
Mom, call me when you're not so busy.
After a 3-year absence due to the COVID pandemic, the annual Knights of Columbus Free Throw Championship returned to the Berkshires earlier this year. Steve Kiltonic attended the competition and tells us more.
In the winter of 1972, children in Florida and North Dakota took to the hardwood courts to shoot hoops. They were participants in the Knights of Columbus's pilot free throw program that was intended to provide boys and girls with some fun, friendly athletic competition. It was so well received that the Knights Free Throw Championship was officially instituted in 1973 at the recommendation of the Order's Committee on Youth Activity. Today, 50 years later, it remains one of the Knights' most popular sporting events. In 2019 to 2020, more than 120,000 children, ages 9 to 14, competed from over 3,600 councils worldwide. The Monsignor Eugene F. Marshall Council 103 in Pittsfield has sponsored the event for years at local parishes, schools, and gyms. The championship returned to Pittsfield on January 20th at Berkshire Community College's Patterson Fieldhouse after a 3-year absence because of the pandemic. The free throw competition helps strengthen the bond between family members and promotes the value of sportsmanship and friendly competition.
It's a program that the kids seem to like, and that's what we're here for. The family comes out, watches them, and they can advance. It makes the parents proud to see their kids doing this. Every kid is recognized.
George Anderson has been involved in the free throw for over 25 years.
Usually the mothers and fathers are here to encourage their children and everything. But unfortunately today is very cold and it's really affected our turnout.
Only a handful of boys showed up at the BCC on the frigid 5-degree day. In previous years, 40 to 50 kids would normally sign up the day of the championship. Jack LaViolette, a past Grand Knight, organized the competition during previous years.
Many people have said they've appreciated being a participant, and it's encouraging because some of these people are bringing their kids back into the free throw. So it's generational.
Nick Melnati joined the Knights about a year ago. This is his first attempt organizing a Knights activity.
This was an opportunity to really become a Knight, take the lead and have the responsibility to sort of do this as myself. I'm the go-to point for all of the schools, so we called out all of the elementary schools, we called out all the middle schools. We're looking for that age group of 9 to 11 and then it's 12 through 14.
The Quillen brothers, Jacob and Luca, were the only boys competing in their age groups. The free throw rules dictate that each participant shoot 15 times for the council title, then 25 times for the district title. The winners are the ones with the most total baskets. Both were competing for the first time.
I wasn't really doing anything else, so this was kind of just like a thing I could do. It's pretty fun.
Jacob hit 8 of 25 free throws in the district contest. His younger brother Luca fared a little better, sinking 10 of 25. Luca started off slow, but Nick provided some pointers which improved his accuracy.
Whenever I shoot, the ball normally goes to the right. He says to look, for me, to the left side of the square. And then when I do that, the ball goes straight because the ball always goes right.
Anderson presented each boy with a medal for winning. Their dad, the financial secretary for the council, said he was glad he and the boys braved the cold to participate.
It's just a great life experience, and you're just throwing basketballs. You got nothing to lose but have fun and, be around other kids. So, really proud.
Jackson St. Bernard walked in later with his dad just to practice, not knowing about the free throw event. He entered as a sole competitor in the 14-year-old age group and sank 10 of 25. Jackson was also awarded a medal and certificate for competing and walked away with the championship. All three qualified to compete in the regional championships held in Greenfield last Saturday. For Reel to Reel, I'm Steve Kiltonic.
In conjunction with all the activities surrounding this Sunday's St. Patrick's Parade, the Ancient Order of Hibernians held their annual communion breakfast. Last Sunday's event began with a memorial mass at St. Jerome Church in Holyoke, followed by a breakfast at Wyckoff Country Club. David Martin has the story.
Those attending the Hibernian Communion Breakfast worshiped collectively at the Memorial Mass and recited a prayer to St. Patrick. The Mass was con-celebrated by Father Thomas Shea and Father Francis Riley, the pastor of St. Jerome Parish.
We work hand in hand in some events with the Holyoke St. Patrick's Parade Committee, but we've run this breakfast ourselves for our family and our friends. I've been going to it, I think, since 1960, and we're running it for years before that. It's just a good time to come together, celebrate our Irish heritage, and kick off a great week in Holyoke.
At the end of Mass, those attending greeted the priest as they left. Festivities continued at the Wyckoff Country Club in Holyoke, beginning with a blessing by Father Riley. The Christian Charity Award is given to a person of Irish descent who wishes to improve the lives of people from Hampden and Hampshire counties. The 2024 recipient was Jim Kelly, the president and CEO of the Polish National Credit Union. Kelly and his team have assisted Providence Ministries, Chicopee Boys and Girls Teen Center, and sponsored financial literacy in the schools.
It's all about giving back. And most importantly, we're teaching young employees at our credit union to become involved in the community. For instance, Shane Hall, our marketing director, who's approaching 30. At the height of COVID, he identified 3,000 Polish national members who were unemployed. So he distributed $30,000 worth of food.
Jim Kelly considers the Sisters of St. Joseph a major influence in his life. In fact, he cited the Sisters of St. Joseph and the Sisters of Providence as examples when performing community service.
Oh, I think of them. They were very selfless. They showed you that it's not about being in the limelight. It's about serving your community. It's about making a difference, and they certainly did.
The keynote speaker was Dr. Erin Duffy Lacey, who is currently a postdoctoral research fellow at Harvard Medical School. Her topic was the lessons I learned from 26 years of competitive Irish dancing and how those have translated to every other aspect of my life. One lesson she learned early on in dance was how to fail gracefully.
In my adulthood, I got teachers who really believed in me, and I improved quite a bit. And I learned that there's pressure to succeed when you start succeeding. So sort of learning how to let go of that pressure and just be in the moment and let the performance speak for itself. And that's really helped me pursue big goals in my scientific career without fear.
In addition to awarding a plaque, Attorney John Driscoll, chairman of the event, presented Kelly with a sash to wear and an Irish walking stick to use when marching in Sunday's Holyoke St. Patrick's Day Parade. For Reel to Reel, I'm David Martin.
And finally today, the annual Holyoke St. Patrick's Parade would not be complete without the Grand Colleen and her court waving from their float as they make their way through the streets of the Paper City. This year's Colleen has an impressive resume of accomplishments, an Irish heritage that traces back to the counties of Cork, Sligo, and Mayo, and has been 100% educated in Catholic schools in the Diocese of Springfield from preschool through college. It was a grand evening when Elizabeth Gord was selected as the 2024 Holyoke Colleen.
It is my honor to announce that the 2024 Grand Colleen is Elizabeth Gord.
Irish pride was shining as Holyoke native Elizabeth Catherine Gord, a 2023 graduate of Elms College in Chicopee and a 2019 graduate of Pope Francis Preparatory School in Springfield, was crowned during the 68th annual Holyoke Grand Colleen Coronation Ball and Awards reception. Each year, the St. Patrick's Parade Committee selects a Grand Colleen and a 4-member court. Members of the court were chosen from among 18 contestants this year and include Amelia Francis George, Hunter Rose Edwards, Natalie Bell Morris, and Taryn Shailene Ryan.
She's queen of the green, our Irish Colleen, a gem of the Emerald Isle.
Since the coronation, it's been a whirlwind of activity for Elizabeth and her court. Last weekend, she and her family attended the annual Mass and Communion breakfast sponsored by the Ancient Order of Hibernians. I sat down with the family in their Holyoke home on Sunday afternoon. Being named the Colleen has been a dream of Elizabeth's since she was a child. She told me first watching the parade on TV.
And my mom was marching one year, so I was super eager to watch. But soon after her, she was very much so overshadowed by gorgeous girls when the dress and a tiara. And of course, you know, the initial thought process of, oh my God, are they princesses? What are they? How can I be one immediately? And my mom came home that day and I asked her to explain who they were. She said, well, those are the Colleens and they're role models for young girls like you. And if you'd like to be one, you have to eat your cauliflower. And it sounded so alike that I thought she couldn't be lying. So for the next few months, that was like all that I ate. And I can't touch the stuff now. I hate it so much.
Well, lucky for her, there will be no cauliflower on the menu this weekend. And as for Elizabeth's parents, Kate and Bob Gord, of course, proud as ever that their eldest child and only daughter, followed by 3 boys, was named the Grand Colleen.
It was a shock, but she's always been a princess in our eyes. But it was amazing to watch the whole process, and incredibly proud is the understatement of the year. She's amazing.
I will agree that she is amazing, and I was blown away by that decision, and not that she's not deserving, but all those girls were incredible.
Yes.
And we are proud of the work that she's done and how she carries herself. She does carry herself beautifully.
She's definitely stepped into the role nicely.
As for her Irish heritage, it comes from Mom Kate's side, from the counties of Cork, Mayo, and Sligo. And the Gourds are equally proud of the fact that all of their children have received a Catholic school education, with Elizabeth beginning hers at Mater Dolorosa Preschool and going right through to Pope Francis Prep and then on to the Elms, where she graduated last May with a bachelor's degree in English and a concentration in writing.
And we think that she's an incredible outcome for the Springfield Diocese and something that they should be very proud of because she is quite remarkable.
Throughout her college career, Elizabeth was the co-editor-in-chief and writer for the Bloom Literary Magazine. She also had an internship with the Elms Alumni Magazine and pioneered a 2-week poetry and prose writing workshop at the Care Center in Holyoke. She also worked with Sister Jane Morrissey at Homework House in Holyoke and is currently directing a play written by Sister Jane. It's all about the history of the Sisters of St. Joseph. Sister Jane has become her role model.
Sister Jane, for the way that she's turned my world upside down by her love, to get to come home and tell my mom, I met a sister and she's been arrested like 8 times, but like in the name of good. She is an incredible lady, and she breaks every single stereotype that you may have set for a nun in the most wonderful way. I told her one day how I felt so connected to my faith by learning about the faith of other people, and she just welled up with tears, and she was like, that's the most wonderful thing I've ever heard. And I knew right then that I was in the right place with the right people.
Elizabeth's commitment to service extended beyond academia. In January 2023, she volunteered to rebuild homes with the St. Bernard Project in Puerto Rico. And in March of the same year, she traveled to El Paso, Texas for a service trip where she cooked and cleaned in a refugee shelter, gaining firsthand knowledge of the border crisis. Both parents agreeing that providing this opportunity for their children to receive a Catholic education was very important.
It just gives you a real worldview of what your place is in the world and what you should be trying to do. To leave the world a better place, and especially in these times, I feel that that is very, very important, that you think of others as what, even more so than you think of yourself.
Yeah, it teaches them to give back to society as well.
That's our role, to be the hands and feet of Jesus.
Words echoed by Elizabeth.
I think that that's where we can come to be unified, is in understanding that we all have care for somebody. And if we can just put ourselves in someone else's shoes for a moment, whether we're trying to do that literally and walking into their life and immersing ourselves in their experience without imposing ourselves on their experience, or if we're studying it from afar in a classroom, if we teach a little more kindness, I think that that would help to bridge the generational gap, bridge societal gap, bridge wealth gap. There's so much that can be done by acknowledging that we care for one another.
You've never seen a more perfect queen than our lovely Irish colleen. Than our lovely Irish colleen.
It was such a pleasure to interview Elizabeth and her parents, such a beautiful family and well-deserving of this honor. And for our viewers on 22 News WWLP, you can watch the parade live starting at noon tomorrow. And for this week, that's Reel to Reel. Thank you so much for joining us today, and be sure to follow the latest news on the Catholic Church both here in Western Massachusetts and around the world on our news and information site, iobserve.org. There you will find articles prepared by our Catholic Communications reporting team and our partners at Our Sunday Visitor. That's iobserve.org, and we are also on Facebook, so you can follow us there at Catholic Communications. I'll see you at this same time next week for another edition of Reel to Reel, your window on the world around you. Happy St. Patrick's and St. Joseph's Days to one and all.
Reel to Reel is a production of the Catholic Communications Corporation, funded in part by the annual Catholic Appeal, and the support of you, our faithful viewers.